Hey everybody, it's Samantha and I want to talk to you about tomatoes. You're in the right place. I'm still with your ID, Forming Intentional Disciples, and your identity in Christ and Arkansas Catholic. But I've been gardening for a couple of years now. I'm not a master gardener, don't take any of my gardening advice. But I've found the more I'm in the garden, the more scriptures come to life because Jesus talks so much about it, right? From pruning, from sorting wheat and weeds and fruit. Like there's so much that he talks about that I've learned a lot. And I felt like the Gospels have really come to life just from me taking some time gardening. So you should garden. But I want to talk about my failures. So the first year I started gardening, I decided to do a whole bunch of tomatoes because I love tomatoes. And I like the weird tomatoes. I didn't know this. They make like purple tomatoes and like green tomatoes. Like you harvest them while they're green and they have like stripes on them and like black tomatoes. It was so cool. So I bought a whole bunch of tomatoes. And I also bought tomato cages, right? Because when you go to Home Depot, you buy like these tomato cages, stick them in the ground and grow your tomatoes. So my first mistake is I didn't realize there's two types of tomatoes. There's indeterminate and determinate tomatoes. Determinate tomatoes get 2 to 3 feet tall. Indeterminate tomatoes get like 6 to 7 feet tall. Like they don't stop growing, they're indeterminate. Well, I planted those in this like little stand here that comes right next to all the tomatoes, like almost like a scam. And so my tomatoes were like coming out of the top and then they were like falling on the ground. And what happened was they got diseased. So they got all kinds of yucky stuff on them and the stalks were splitting and I didn't get as much fruit. So why do I tell you this? I tell you this because sometimes in our Catholic churches, we get really excited to start something new, but we don't have good structure in place. Our church is so wonderful. We have good structure like priests and bishops and our Pope and all of that. But I'm talking about on a parish level, what structures do we have to help people really grow? So our people are our vines, and our parish structures is what supports them as they start bearing fruit, right? So my first year, I just didn't have something in place. Now here's an interesting statistic that I've seen. I think the Pew study said that 78% of people who leave the Catholic Church say that they feel called by God to leave. Called by God to leave. 71% say they weren't being fed, which is pretty crazy. And through my time in ministry and talking to people who have left, here's what I think happens. They have this encounter with God, sometimes at Mass, sometimes in adoration, and it awakens something in them. And they become so in love with God. And so they start looking for other people who are in love with God like they are. And sometimes they find Protestant friends who aren't afraid to talk about Jesus and their prayer life. And then their Protestant friends invite them to a small group, and they're in this small group, and they're being fed in this small group. They're learning what authentic friendship looks like in Christ. And slowly they drift away. This has happened on a number of occasions with people that I have met with one-on-one to just talk about why they left, why they're coming back, those kind of things. Now, I say that, but small groups aren't like a silver bullet. We can't just throw those in and think that's the structure that's going to fix everything. My second year of gardening, I was like, well, obviously this doesn't work. So I went on Pinterest and have this wonderful Pinterest fail where I grabbed all these bamboo sticks and I like strung them together with string and made this awesome trellis that was so pretty that I thought all my tomatoes were going to grow on and I'd have lots of fruit. The problem was it wasn't strong enough and my fruit collapsed and my poor tomato plants were so diseased and it did not work well. So we can't just throw in small groups and think that everything is going to change. This is my third year gardening. I now have behind me, I don't know if you can see it, a beautiful trellis that my husband made me. So it's nice and secure. My plants are going to be able to grow all the way up. I can take good care of them. So in our parishes, we also need to make sure that we have strong structures in place that have been strategic and well thought out. I suggest if you want to think about this or you want to learn more about this, go to Father Eric Pohlmeier's Faith Formation Report that's on the Diocesan website and read through that. I really like his excerpt in there from M3 Ministries on like the three approach. So make disciples, mature disciples, and mission disciples. Keep it really simple, but find a good structure so that everybody in parish leadership, on your parish council, who's in charge of the altar society and men's club and your small groups understands, hey, we're going to help people encounter God, and then after they encounter them, we're making them disciples, then we're going to mature them, we're going to give them good solid catechesis, and then we're going to mission them. We're going to help them go out and find their calling and evangelize people and help them come back through this very simple process. So this is Samantha Denefe. Get out there and garden and form intentional disciples. Have a great day.